Do you remember the first time you touched a guitar?
Not really, because my dad played. In fact, I have incredibly adorable pictures of me at 2 playing a Mickey Mouse guitar, and he's playing, it's an all mahogany harmony, 50s harmony. And evidently my mom said that as soon as I could walk, I would, whenever he played guitar, I would sleep in the guitar case. And I still remember the smell of it. So I was pretty into guitars at a very early age. I started playing when I was 4 or 5.
Awesome.
You'd think I would have gotten a lot better by now.
Do you remember the first song you learned?
Yes, it was Tom Dooley. And I borrowed or my parents acquired, the neighbors had a white plastic, I remember it like it was yesterday when I was 4 or 5. It was a white plastic ukulele with gray swirly back and sides. I think it was Brazilian plastic.
You can't export that now.
No, I know. Well, it was from Stumps. And it had a picture of Jimmy Durante on the headstock. And I hated it because it wouldn't stay in tune. But I learned Tom Dooley, and it was in the key of D. Anything that I think is cool, I'll listen to. I don't care what the rules are, you know. So, and I listen. Actually, I've really studied a lot of old Broadway musicals, like 40s and 50s Broadway musicals, just for melody reasons. Sometimes the lyrics leave me a little cold, but I think Richard Rodgers was a genius, and same with Lerner and Lowe, and they were just melodically they did very, very interesting things, and so I study that a lot. So if you see me walking around the house singing Oklahoma, don't be surprised. Actually, I do it in supermarkets, which is probably why I live alone. I do. I'm like, you know how musicals are so stupid because you're watching them and there's some kind of plot. It's almost like a porn movie. The plot is so loose, you know. Not that I would do any of that, but anyway, the plots are I just compared Broadway musicals to porn. Oh, it's the first time for everything. But I mean, the plot lines are pretty weak. You know, the pizza delivery man, you know, comes and they break into song. And it's always these weird, like they'll be on a horseback and they'll go, whoa, you know. But I do that walking down the street, so I understand these musicals, but it embarrasses people sometimes. I don't even know I'm doing it. I break into song a lot. I've been misunderstood by some people that they hear these really lush melodies and they think that I can't write lyrics because the melodies are too pretty. And I remember I got a review once. I'll never forget this. I was in Maine, and they said that although Cliff Eberhardt writes good lyrics, his songs are too melody laden. And I was talking to a singer-songwriter that was opening for me, who will remain nameless, who of course went on to be huge. And she said, "Well, I agree. I think sometimes melody gets in the way of lyrics." I was like, it's called songwriting. It's not just writing. It's, you know. So sometimes, especially in the folk genre, which I got stuck in because I play acoustic guitar, you have these sweeping melodies that people all say, oh, that's too pop. Well, no, I actually got it from more like from Tin Pan Alley than pop. But they look at it as a bad thing to have these really sweeping melodies. And I'm sorry about that. Somebody loves me somewhere. Or I owe money to somebody somewhere. For the last interview I did. I tell you, this is a losing proposition, these interviews. Here, don't put that in. I've got a chain of this stuff going out, yeah. So it depends. You could do a little of both. I don't have any hard rules about doing anything as far as creativity goes. If it comes at you in a weird way, God bless you. It's there. But I was teaching last weekend up in New Hampshire. I actually hope my student hears this. And she was singing a song, and I said, you know what would really be great would be like a D diminished chord here, you know? Just, you know, like Irving Berlin would always throw in the odd diminished chord. I played the diminished chord. She goes, oh, those are those pretentious chords that you play. I said, you're bigoted against chords? You know, don't let a diminished chord in the White House. I mean, that's kind of bizarre to me that music gets. I also have people that come to classes, and I teach all over the country. That when I teach at these song schools, they'll come in sometimes and go, is Syria involved? And I go, just a little bit. And they go, you hear the guitar cases closing. It's like, sometimes acoustic music, the music part is the last thing thought about. And it's so lyrical based. And I just, even if it's the most incredible lyrics I've ever heard in my life, the melody is still so important to me as far as the thing that moves it into my heart. The greatest lyrics in the world have never made me cry, but the greatest melodies in the world have made me cry. And that's how I kind of judge a serious song. Is if I'm moved to tears, I'm buying that album, or I'm dating the writer.
Another 50 right there.
That's another thing is people write, we're just talking about being funny, people write humorous songs or what I call straight songs, let's just say, that don't have humor in them. And I try to do both. I try to write a really tragic song that has a little twist in it, that little, that make people go, what? Or even laugh. Because I've been in many tragic situations in my life, and there's sometimes, at funerals, sometimes people say the funniest things in the world, and people will try not to laugh. I'm like, if I die, laugh like crazy at my funeral. So I try to put, at least in most of my, when people call them sad songs, I call them introspective. They're talking about your heart and life. And sometimes I like to put a little ironic line in there and see if people are really listening. And what I like best is when I sing that line and all of a sudden you see two people sitting in the audience and they start talking to each other, whispering to each other, like, did he mean to say that? Are we supposed to laugh? I like how people consider each other when things like that. What do we think about that line? Well, Randy Newman made a whole career of it. He always presses the envelope. So I think it's nice to do that lyrically and with melody. Take a melody into some strange place that people feel a little disoriented, and then bring them back to the safety of their own, their own home.
Shifting gears a little bit to just the music world in general, music in general. If you could peek ahead 10, 20 years, what do you see that's going to be great about music?
I haven't been very positive about it, I must admit. I think what's going to happen is I really feel we're entering a dark age creatively all over the world. In visual art, in drama. Of course there's great stuff out there, but we're in a stage where I think because of the money factor and how all art is manufactured, we're at a really weird crossroads where we don't know how we're going to get paid for this anymore, and we can't put a price on things. And so that's going to change art. It's going to flip it around, I think, which I think is a necessary thing. I think we need to clear the air. So I think probably there'll be a surge coming up. I hope it's not in 20 years, but it could take that long, of people who start again like the way I started, where when I first played, there was no record companies that would ever sign the kind of music that I was doing. And we had a great group in New York that used to get together and write, compare songs every Monday, but we all had jobs. We rarely played out, and we weren't writing for the function of getting money or for people to record it or to make a record or to tour. We were writing because we could not stop ourselves from writing. That's what we did. It was part of our life. And I think we need to get back to that, to have music that makes me cry, that moves the world. That, I remember when I was 14, I went to a club. I grew up in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, and I used to go to this club, the Main Point, all the time. And when I was 14, my brother took me there because there was this guy named James Taylor that had just gotten signed by the Beatles, by Apple, and he was doing a record. And it was me and my brother and about 4 other people there. And he played Carolina on My Mind, and my world changed. I'd never heard a song like that before that affected me. I was bothered by it. I was like, wow, he's making me upset. And he's making me sentimental. I was 14. This guy was getting into every part of me that was creative and emotional. And I think we need those moments again. I think we're missing those. I know I am, and I know that probably I'm not the creative place that we all are in right now is so competitive and so scary that we're not just writing and just expressing ourselves. And I think hopefully before 20 years is up, it's going to be a great renaissance of that kind of writing.
All right, one final question. Just in traveling, anywhere in the world, really, you don't have to limit to America, but I guess it's two questions in one. One is just a really special place that in some way affected you, the place itself, and secondarily, a people, any group, whether it's a association or a geographic people, anything that was
both. It's funny that's a two-part question, but it ends up being a people in a country and a city. For some reason, Italy affects me like no other place on the planet, and the people there. I feel like I have no Italian blood that I know of in me, but I seem to fit in there for some reason, and they get me. And I went to Venice after my mom died because it was her wish that I put her ashes in the Great Canal, which is illegal, but I did it anyway. And I went alone, and it was just incredibly moving because I went in November too, and there's nobody there. So I was walking down these alleyways and these streets with no other person there. And the night I put her ashes into the canal, there was an orchestra. There's an orchestra, little combos that play in St. Mark's Square, and they played a Chopin piece that was one of my mom's favorite ones. And I'd been sitting there drinking grappa for hours, and I said, "Well, it's time, Mom," because they were playing this beautiful piece, and it felt incredible. And I put her ashes in there, and I lost it. The beauty of the place, the fact that that was her favorite place in the world, the fact that I was saying goodbye to my mom. And I just lost it. I was projectile crying. I was so upset. Or not upset. I was moved. And I get on, they have these boats that are they call them buses, canal buses. And I sat down, and there was this little old man with a beret, Italian guy, and he's just looking at me. And this would never happen on the subway in New York. And he pats my knee and he goes, "Amore? Was it love?" And I went, "Si." And he went, "Oh." And it was just an incredible moment that I felt completely understood in a language I couldn't even speak, that somebody just looked at me and went, "I know what the hell's going on with this guy." And it made me also think, and I went back and I actually wrote a bunch of stuff. I wrote that song that I played earlier, "Love Slips Away." I wrote that about that situation that he broke it down like one word. It didn't matter if it was familia, my family. It didn't matter if it was a girlfriend. It didn't matter if it was a job. It didn't matter if I had just hit an emotional barrier. It was about my heart. And one word, amore. And that was it. And I was like, wow, that's editing. He's 80 years old. It took him that long to skim it down to one word. But that's a good way to think about writing. Sometimes it's just that one thing.